Hello, my name is Dylan Pope. I am a senior in the GIMM program at Boise State University, and this is my project proposal for the individual project that I'll be working on throughout the fall and spring semester, in addition to the other projects that I'm currently doing for clients and the remainder of the GIMM program. So to start out, just a quick agenda. First, I'm going to go over my learning goals for the overall project, what I hope to achieve at the end of it. Then I'll move into the proposed outcome, what the actual project is going to be. Then I'll discuss the scope and scale of the project, go over some of the teachable skills that I'll be able to present to my classmates at the end of the semester, look into some of the potential challenges that I think are going to arise throughout this project, before finally discussing some similar projects that already exist and are published. So, beginning with my learning goals, going over what I overall want to achieve and what I want to learn throughout this project. I'm mainly looking for more experience with virtual reality hand tracking in Unity. Recently, Quest has become a lot more supportive of hand tracking in Unity. They have documentation on how to set up and actually use hand tracking, and I hope to follow that and basically figure out how it works, how to get it set up, and how hand tracking actually works in a virtual space. I want to go into a little bit of detail on things like pushing buttons, interacting with objects, interacting with UI, and that sort of thing. Ultimately, just learning about how hand tracking works in a virtual space. I think the industry moving forward is going to become a lot more reliant on hand tracking. I think the shift away from controllers allows us to feel far more immersed in the platform. So I think developing the skills now and kind of pioneering the industry in using hand tracking as we get more comfortable with it in the future is going to be a good thing to do. I think I'm going to have essential skills that employers are going to be looking for and already are looking for. So moving into the actual proposed outcome, how I plan to apply that hand tracking experience. My goal is to create a virtual reality piano project, essentially just creating a regular piano in virtual reality. It's not going to require a real piano whatsoever. It's just going to be an entirely virtual space that anyone can just sit down at and play the piano, potentially learn the piano, or something along those lines. I think it's a good way to demonstrate hand tracking because just about everyone knows how a piano works and what it is. So I think it's a good baseline for people to look at. And if it's working efficiently in VR, we know the hand tracking is working efficiently as well because we know how a piano works and how reliant it is on minute hand details or minute hand movements, I should say. So moving into the scope and scale of the project, my end goal is to create a working virtual reality piano over the 9 months in the fall and spring semester. But I think it's a good plan to be ready to either upscale or downscale the project depending on how it's going over those 9 months. So in the upscale category, this is kind of thinking that maybe in the fall semester, at the end of the fall semester, I already have a working piano if development goes according to plan and development goes well. I could upscale the project to potentially teach a song. I could take the principles applied to the piano and create a WASD keyboard as well, following that basic hand tracking to button and then creating some sort of output. I could also shift away from buttons and just look for more general hand tracking interactions, picking up objects, throwing objects, as well as precise movement like holding a pencil, drawing with it, writing with it, that sort of thing. In the downscale category, assuming that the VR piano is more difficult than I'm believing it to be at this moment, I can downscale and just go with some basic tracking interactions with buttons, maybe a smaller piano or just 3 buttons on a table that show that the hand tracking is present and working and that it can have some sort of output coming from a button, and that could theoretically be upscaled to a piano. I could also just downscale this to a general interactions with UI demo, showing how hand tracking works, working with UI elements, maybe just using ray casting to pinch things far away, using some sort of tablet with your basic phone gestures that exist right now, or other sorts of UI that could be demoed. The VR piano project would have some sort of start menu and potentially a pause menu, so I will need to explore these UI interactions anyway. So I think this is a good thing to rely on, maybe as a backup plan. If I could just shrink down to those UI interactions, it still ends up being a solid portfolio artifact, and it still demonstrates a lot of great technical skills. Moving into the teachable skills, what I'll be able to present to my classmates at the end of either the fall or spring semester. First is just going to be that hand tracking setup, how to actually create hand tracking in Unity, how to get the Oculus working with hand tracking in Unity, as well as some basic hand tracking interactions, pressing buttons, interacting with objects, actually seeing hands in a virtual space. I think that would be pretty easy to put together a short demo that other students would be able to follow along with and maybe transfer that skill to their own projects or explore the skills further for new projects in the coming future. Some of the challenges I expect to face throughout this project is just the fact that I can't play the piano. I think that's definitely going to be the biggest one. I don't have a lot of interactions with pianos. I've never been taught. I've never learned. I've never even tried to learn. That being said, I do think how a piano works is pretty straightforward from the basic concept of push key and it makes a noise. I think that's going to be pretty easy to translate into the virtual space with the experience that I already have in virtual reality and pushing buttons and that sort of thing. I also have peers that I can rely on that do know how to play the piano that can not only verify my work and make sure that the piano is working properly and ideally identically to how a real piano works, as well as ones that can demo the project for a portfolio artifact and provide that more fluid pianist movement that I'm not going to be able to get myself. I think if this becomes too much, I can shift to a WASD keyboard, similar to what I mentioned in the upscale, but this would just be outright not doing the piano and doing a keyboard instead, because it's the same fundamental concept of using hand tracking to push buttons and create an output. However, it would be a little bit more specific to something I have experience with and something I've used before. Overall, I think the piano is going to be pretty simple, simple in a developer sense to get working in a virtual reality project. I think how it works, I have a pretty firm grasp of, and I'll be doing more research beforehand. But I just want to acknowledge that the challenge is there, and it's something that I am going to be aware of moving forward. Looking at some similar projects that already exist, this isn't a new thing. People have already done this. Piano Vision, for example, uses AR pass-through to teach people how to play the piano. It has the keys coming down in a line towards your piano, identifying what you need to play next. It teaches people how to play the piano, but it does require a real piano. The AR view that you're seeing in that image, at least from my understanding, is just an overview of an actual piano that's connected to a computer. It's taking the input from the physical piano itself and translating that to the AR space. Grand Reality, on the other hand, seems to be more of another personal project that someone else has been working on. It's entirely in VR and it doesn't require an actual piano, but as you can see in this image, the developer has essentially overlaid their virtual reality piano with a physical one. So while the physical one isn't doing anything, it's providing that tactile movement. Mine's a bit different in that I want it to be entirely in a virtual space. I think if there's going to be some physical interaction, it would just be overlaying a regular table, so you still have a baseline of where the piano starts and ends. But I don't think that that's really going to be essential, and at the most, that would be an optional feature. Obviously, this already exists. I'm not reinventing the wheel. People have made VR pianos before, but I do think it's a really good way to demonstrate the AR hand tracking, or the VR hand tracking, sorry. And I'm interested to explore the concept a little bit more because I can apply those principles elsewhere. So in summary, my overall goal here is just to demonstrate hand tracking use. That's my primary thing that I'm trying to learn. I want to know how hand tracking works so I can take those principles and use them in other projects. I'm choosing the virtual reality piano because it's easily scalable. It's entirely based on just using hand tracking to interact with buttons or physical components, and I can quickly scale that to something smaller than the piano, or I can add on and create something greater than the piano as well. I also think the piano is incredibly recognizable for the portfolio. I think most people know what a piano is and how it works in a sense that you press the keys to make noise. So being able to look at a website or look at a portfolio and see VR hand tracking piano project is going to have a pretty clear image in someone's mind of the skills that it's demonstrating, what I've been able to accomplish over the 9 months. So that being said, I look forward to your feedback on the project and changing the project based on what you think and what you recommend. And I will try to make more of these developer logs along the project, so not only you but my potential employers in the future can refer back to and see how my process went along. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you.